To create a knit puff flower, you will need some knitting needles and 2 different colors of yarn, one for the petals and one for the center of your flower. I prefer yellow for the center just because it's kind of like that pollen look. And I'm going to be doing this on circulars today, but you can do this on straight needles, whichever you're more comfortable with. And we will start by casting on 10. Now I'm using the long tail cast on. I have a tutorial for that on my blog, but feel free to use whichever cast on method you prefer. Just simply get 10 stitches onto your needle. And now we will begin creating the bobbles, which create the puff flower. For our very first stitch, we will first knit into the stitch like regular, and then we're going to leave it on the left hand needle and we are going to knit into the back of the stitch. So a knit front and back. Now we're going to repeat that where we knit into the front of the stitch again, and then we knit into the back of the stitch, and we're still not done. So do not take this off of your left hand needle just yet. Got some yarn splitting there. We are going to once again knit into the front of the stitch one last time. So this increases our stitch to 5. So now we can take it off the left needle now that we have 5 loops on our right needle. We are going to go ahead and turn our work, and then we are going to purl these 5 stitches. Hopefully this yarn doesn't give me troubles with splitting here. No, it wants to split on me. And this will take a little bit of practice working because it does feel pretty tight. It's going to feel tight, that's normal. Now we will turn and we will knit those 5 stitches. And now we're going to turn again and purl those 5 stitches. And then one more time we are going to turn and knit those 5 stitches. Now that all the stitches are on our right hand needle, we are going to pass the 4 right stitches off of the first stitch, but one at a time. So we'll take our second stitch and we'll pass it over the first and drop it. And then we'll do the same with the third stitch and the fourth stitch, and now the 5th stitch. And now we've created our very first bobble. And now we will be working the very next stitch on the left hand needle by doing a knit stitch. And this one you'll want to pull a little bit tight so that it helps that bobble. And you can even push your bobble towards you and then tighten down again. So this is our very first bobble. Now we're going to repeat those steps again. We will be making 5 total petals. So for our next stitch, we will knit front and back, and then knit front and back again, and then knit into the front one more time. So we've increased to 5, and we can take it off that left hand needle. And now we're going to turn our work, and we are going to purl 5 stitches. And now we're going to turn our work and knit 5 stitches. And turn our work again and purl 5 stitches. And one last time we will turn our work and knit 5 stitches. And now that we've worked those stitches, we are going to pass the 4 stitches over the first. So pass the second stitch one by one, then the third, the fourth, and then the 5th until only that first stitch remains. Kind of pop that towards you and tightly knit the next stitch. So now we have 2 petals. This is the repeat we will be using. So continue to do those 2 steps for the last 3 petals. Now that we've got 5 bobbles on our needle, we still have 10 stitches on the needle. We are going to go ahead and cut that first color yarn. And then we are going to grab our yellow yarn. So to be adding this pop of yellow, we are simply going to purl in every stitch across. I'm going to kind of tighten down these ends. They're a little bit loose, and I can also fix those at the very end when we get out our needle. So I'm simply purling these 10 stitches. And it does feel a little bit bulky with all of those bobble stitches on there. That's what gives that flower a little bit of dimension. Now that we have purled those 10 stitches, we can go ahead and we can cut the yellow yarn, and then we can grab our tapestry needle. And we're going to take that yellow yarn onto our tapestry needle. And we are simply going to slip off all of these stitches onto our tapestry needle.
Lunch is ready.
And now we're just going to pull that through and tighten it down. Now what I like to do one more time is to weave through those 10 stitches again. It helps join it into a circle and makes that center really strong. And so now I will get that tail end out of the way there. And I will pull that really tight. And now you can see it's forming into a cute puff flower. Now I will weave in the yellow end. And if you want to, you can always leave some extra strands if you were to tie it to something or sew it to something. That's a great thing to do with those extra strands as you weave them in, is to sew them to something, kind of like the unicorn headband. So we only have 4 ends to weave in here, and I want to show you, once you get to the pink ends to weave in, that's a great time because we still have this gap here. So if you take one of your pink tail ends, this is a great time to close that gap. So I simply will catch some yarn from one side of the puff flower, and I'll catch some yarn from the other side of the puff flower, and I can pull those together, and look at that. Now it's a cute knit puff flower. And this is great for little decor pieces, to make a wreath for the front door. You can make this in different weights of yarn and get different sizes, but it's a really cute way to add like little details. And the more you make, the faster you get at it. So for this, for the unicorn headphone cover, that is a free pattern on my blog, I simply took these tail ends that were left and I used those to sew them to that unicorn headband cover, and it's really cute. I hope you enjoy this knit flower puff tutorial, and you come back and see me for more.